Okay, I would like to introduce a good friend of mine, Guido Meyer from Deutschland, Germany, who is one of the most laziest, artistic-minded musicians of all time. This guy's so clever, he never signed himself to a label. And was able to cruise through life, being so independent, that we're going to do his autobiography tonight. And I want you to sit back, put the kettle on, and get some Rizla.
What's that?
Rizla is something we say in England and Ireland.
Oh, okay. Never heard. Hey, great. Good to hear.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I hope you're good. You're doing well.
Yeah, the chest is all right. I mean, a little bit more wind.
Okay. So we planned this interview actually for the last 3 days, and we never could make it for several reasons. Anyway, but here we are, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
We have a fascinating row of questions coming up, and I'm going to ask the first one right now. Guido, how did it all start?
Well, back in the days, in the 70s, we had like 3 TV channels, and they only broadcasted the usual main stuff for the people, TV shows and news.
Like we had the same.
Exactly. And what was completely different that day, the TV announcer said, it was in the middle, like 3 o'clock or so,
yeah, they had a break
afternoon,
yeah.
And he said, we have a technical difficulty, and they stopped the program, and we have nothing else to show you now, except for 5 minutes Kiss live in concert. And that was really mind-blowing those days. And I remember Ace Frehley with the fire helmet, and this weird show was going on. Yeah, everybody knows Kiss today, And my brother and me were completely infected by this video, It really worked on us, and we loved it. And I remember the next day, my sister had birthday, and I bought her the double live album of Kiss Alive 2, and she hated Kiss, and I knew it, and she gave the album to me. Yeah, but I loved Kiss from that moment on. They were the greatest,
Okay, so Guido, I believe like most of your career was based on composing, but yet you had to fall in love with the genre of music, and you picked the guitar to allow you to go in on this adventure that you've had in your life. So tell me, who bought the first guitar for you?
That was my grandfather. Because after that Kiss video, I immediately wanted to play guitar and wanted to learn that. But in my mind, a guitar was that thing what Ace Frehley had in his hands, and that was an electric guitar, And especially Ace Frehley's guitar, that was that one with the light bulbs, and it can shoot rockets, and you have all that fireworks stuff going on. And that was actually more I was thinking of guitar. And what my brother and me did those days, because we were little kids, we took the carpet racket or just a piece of wood, whatever we could put our hands on, and we just played Kiss, like put the record on and jump around the bed. I remember we really crashed and smashed our parents' bed, it broke down, and we had to put some stones underneath that you could use the bed again. Anyway, one day we did that in the garden of my grandfather. We just played Kiss and rocking and my grandfather, for some reason, he thought I got talent, and he bought me a guitar, and he came home with that guitar, and it was a classical guitar with nylon strings, and I was super disappointed because this thing has no light bulbs, doesn't shoot rockets.
12 strings?
No, it's a classic guitar. A 12 string is a 12 string.
I thought the 12 string was
Shut up.
classical.
No, why? You have 6 strings or 12 strings. Anyway, I was super disappointed when my grandfather came home with this guitar, a piece of wood.
Acoustic.
Yeah, and also it was almost taller than I was, you know. So I could not I could not put my hands around it. I was 6 years old, 7 years old, you know. And I was super disappointed. And he also already paid for lessons. I had to go classical guitar lessons where you have to know about notes, and I cannot read notes, not at all, you know. I mean a tiny bit, but it's really, forget about it. Everything I learned was by ear later on, and still today actually.
So what was the time gap between you receiving that guitar and you plucking out nice chords?
Plucking what?
Being able to learn how to play it.
See, first this guitar, because I hate it so much, and they kicked me out of the lessons school, of this guitar school, because the teacher talked to my grandfather, said, look, he's too young, he cannot foot arms, he doesn't know about notes. And so I completely gave up. And this guitar disappeared somewhere in a room in a dark chamber. It was there forever, for like half a year. And then I remember my mom and me, we walked down the streets, and there was a music store, and they had these books. I still have them, too bad I don't have them around, but the old folks will remember. It was Peter Bursch, he's a German guy, I guess from Hanover or somewhere, because later on he worked together with the Scorpions. That's another story to tell anyway. And he published 2 books, How to Learn Guitar Without Knowing About Notes, you know. And I said, wow, this is a revelation. This is what I need. And my mom, they were cheap, and my mom bought me both of these books. And with them, it was super easy. You know, there's also not, if you cannot read notes, you can use, it's called in the guitar, tabulature, you know. That is right, you just have 6 lines representing the 6 strings, and then you have these bars, so you ever know what fret to play. And so he showed you the chords, and that was super easy.
So Wolfgang Amadeus composed his first symphony at the age of 6. How old were you?
No, I never composed a symphony at all, actually. I only did one almost pseudo-classical piece of music, and that was also, I guess, one of the first times I worked with a MIDI computer, the Atari. And that piece was called The Glass Forest, and I also sent it to the University of Mannheim, and the professor, he gave me a letter back that he liked it in a way, but he also just told me what it actually is, you know, a soft piece of music, you know, and stuff. You can hear it on my homepage. It's still there, The Glass Forest. You know, I'm not very proud of it, but.
How old were you?
Back then, how old was I? 19. Oh, Jesus Christ, you asked me questions.
24?
Yeah, so what? Something like this. Yeah. What I remember, for example, when I was first learning to play guitar is the first thing I did, I took the guitar and tuned all the strings just by ear, as long as I could put one finger over one fret, and then you had a chord, you know. That's the first thing what I remember what I did. So I always had the ear how it had to sound in a way, but the tension was way too high on the E string, and so first always the string broke, and then the whole guitar collapsed. The neck broke and shit. But that happened later. I remember I watched something on TV where the young kids sat on a fire outside, you know, and the one guy played on the guitar blowing in the wind, and so my friend and stuff, you know. And
Bob Dylan?
Yeah, and when I saw that video, I was convinced, that will surely take me like 20 years and I can play it too. And then it took me like, I guess, 3 weeks or so when I could play.
Strumming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very easy. It's so easy actually.
So we're going to talk about composing now. And we are still, we're in the 80s, you're a teen.
No, we're in the 70s. We're still in the 70s. Yeah,
okay.
So, but I'm born 71.
Almost the same as me.
Started playing guitar 78.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So you're playing the guitar and you're composing at the same time. So what really age could you actually raise the flag and say, yes, this was the year when I composed my very first song?
No, it was always like that, Graham. When, see, for example, I told you the story with Blowing in the Wind.
Yeah.
And so this was my daily routine, how to learn play guitar and learn songs. I just put in, whether I just listen to the radio or put in a tape or record or whatever, and I just listen to the songs, and then I play to the songs. And in the beginning you have always the wrong chords, you know, it takes a little while to find the right chords. And then when I play the song 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 20 times, and sooner or later you know the song inside out. And then you start to think, what actually else could you play over the song, you know, instead of just the chords? And that is what I did, you know, to Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Mike Oldfield, Andreas Vollenweider, whatever. I could put different styles, you know, and I always try to improvise over that already existing music. And that is how I came up with own ideas.
So you mentioned Mike Oldfield. Was he one of your mentors in this time?
Well, there were many, you know. I remember as a kid in German TV, like we mentioned before, only 3 channels, but now and then they had these shows like the Rock Palast, and Rory Gallagher played there, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that is really the earliest 2 guitar players I remember I watched. And that was really, we saw that in the magazine where you have all the TV programs. Tonight, 2015, on the 3rd channel, Rock Palast, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And back in the days, you heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan. You were happy if you had a magazine with a picture interview of him, you know, and then he was there live on TV, and I completely soaked it in, you know. You remember Rory Gallagher? He's from Ireland.
That's right.
And he always pulled his guitar after him, and that was just amazing. Also, Tangerine Dream had a big impact on me, you know. I was always pulled around. There was heavy metal, a lot of your Irish traditional music. I listened Donald Lunny and stuff like that, where medieval music that was always fascinating to me, you know, learning all that scales and all that stuff. And I also liked heavy metal a lot, thrash metal like Slayer and stuff. Today not so much anymore, but back in the days that was a lot of different influences from everywhere.
So Guido, you are concentrating hard on composing, so your father must have saw that and then helped you by purchasing a 4-track. So when was the first accomplishment from this particular event?
In 1987 I started to record my first demo tapes, you know. Yeah, just like you mentioned, we saw a 4-track Teak 144 4-track tape recorder in a thrift shop, and I guess it cost those days like 245 Deutschmarks, and that was really a lot of money, even if it was used, and it was already a crappy thing. It was outdated. There was already the 3 other versions, you know, but it was the only thing we could afford those days. So my father bought it, I guess like a Christmas present or birthday present, whatever. And yay, I was able to record for the first time. And the results is still to hear on my homepage. You know, I published the first 3 demo tapes, just the way they were recorded back in the days from 87 to 88, I guess. In that shitty quality they are, with all the tape noise and everything, and being completely out of timing, and yeah, but you have to start somewhere, you know.
Okay, so you're swimming down the shallow end, testing the water, and the water's warm. And when did you go down to the deep end and start producing really quality music?
Well, a friend of mine is Manuel Bompe. He lives now in Munich, you know. And back in the, I don't know, must have been around the 90s, I guess, end of the 80s probably, 88, 89 or something. He came into my class where I went to school, you know, in 5th or 6th grade. And at first time I couldn't stand the guy, but pretty quick we found out we have a lot of things in common, you know. We like the same music, we both went to skateboarding those days, which we did a lot, and then when we became friends, he came to my house and he saw my guitar playing and he was impressed, and he said stuff like, "Oh, I wish I could play instrument too," and so, and said, "Listen, I actually I'm working on some synthesizer music, which became the episodes later, but we have to talk about it later."
Episodes is the name of
actually my first proper album. Yeah, I guess that is the benchmark, and if I'm gonna die and one day people will remember my music, it will probably this piece of music, because it's the most heard until today, even if it's old.
Your first one release?
Yeah, actually it is. It's true. My first proper release, that's true. But to go back with the story with Manu, that turned out to be, I explained to him, look, I do this synthesizer music, but also I have ideas for guitar music. But those days I keep this like separated, like black and white,
So tell me, Guido, what was your first computer program and how did you start engineering up and coming beats into your composing?
Well, the first computer I ever worked with was not my own, because I've always been broke. I've been used to always lend equipment from friends. Good thing I always had good friends who lent me synthesizers, all kind of electronics. And Gerhard Müller, he lives now in Kaiserslautern. Hi Gerhard. And he owned a Commodore 64. And he had a program where you can make drums, very, very simple, like one square is for the bass, and then you leave a gap, that is the break, and then you have the snares. That you can hear it on my first demo tapes, that was rarely used. But the first real computer, which was useful to make music, that was the Atari. The computer will record actually just the notes, and then when the computer plays it back, while the melody is played or your chords played, you could change the sounds from piano to violin, whatever you want, until you find the right sound for that composition. And then it was cool. You had the melody, you could add the bass and the drums. I mean, today it sounds surely hilarious to many people, but back in the days, to me, that was really like a revelation.
And so, how were you managing to record? Was it floppy disk, or how were you recording your tracks?
Yeah, of course. In the Atari, you used the 7.5 inches. I do not remember. It's these little square ones, the floppy disk. But they only record the notes, actually, the MIDI note. The episodes, for example, or everything I recorded then those days was actually composed on the Atari, and then all my synthesizers I had, which were never many, mostly just like 2 or 3 synthesizers, all I could afford, and mostly they were landed. And then we just plugged it into a little mixing console and it went right to the tape machine. I mean a real tape deck, not a professional 24.
Real?
Yes, of course not. We worked with a real machine later, Manu. We rented one, an 8-track, a Revox or something, and it was so expensive that we really had to rush to record our demo tapes. Even just the 8-track was super expensive to rent. Well, the coincidence that I met Manu those days was a good one, because when he came to my home and he saw my guitar and stuff, and he liked my playing and all the shit, we were actually in the same kind of music. Like we liked thrash metal at all.
Sign of the times, yeah.
Maiden, Priest, Slayer. We really loved that stuff in those days. And Manu, he said, "Oh wow, that's so great! I really want to play an instrument too. I would like to play an instrument, but I never did it in my lifetime." And I told him, "Look, I have ideas for a live project. Actually, what I want to do, it's more at home. I do this synthesizer music, which turned out to be the episodes later, but I also have other ideas for more driven." Rocky guitar stuff, which I really like to do and play live. And I said, I need a bass player and a drummer. And he said, I tried to learn the bass. And hey, this guy was really gifted, you know. I just showed him the basics, what to do, because, you know, guitar and bass is not so far away from each other. And hey, he turned out after like 3-4 months, he became a really good bass player. And then he progressed on his own, learned all these the slapping techniques and stuff. And yeah, we had a good time, and we toured live from, I guess, from 92 till 94. And those were actually the only 2 years where I was a really professional, trying to make a living from music. And believe me, that was really, really hard, you know.
So what, like that was a gig every weekend?
And sometimes on the weekdays too, you know, we played actually as often as we could. I mean, we didn't make it too far from our hometown, you know, that mostly just the next cities around or villages. But we took any gig we could play, you know. Sometimes we played just in a local pub with old folks there who had no idea of actually what we are doing. But the guy who owned the bar just offered us like couple of hundreds, you know, and we said, hey, this is way better paid than we play in these intellectual clubs where they actually want to hear our music, you know. I said, yeah, just do it. We just play a little less distorted and make it a little softer, but we just needed the money, you know.
So was it purely original music, or did you do any covers?
No. Yes, we did covers actually. Just when you mentioned, we played covers from Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien, also from Tangerine Dream. That was our last. The last number was always, what was it, Dominion. We played on a synthesizer, but mostly our own compositions, you know. My first tries, you know. I showed you yesterday with the live stuff, you heard it, you know.
And so you are touring a little bit around Germany, maybe. Did you ever adventure outside Germany on your tour?
No. Playing. When I played here in Switzerland in the Mahagoni Hall, that was the first gig outside Germany as far as I remember.
Okay, let's just try and keep it back into the 90s for a second. Did you ever have the privilege of hearing your tracks on the radio?
Yes, my music is played on the radio, not on the public, you know, but on the internet radio. There are several stations until today, you know.
This is back in the 90s?
No, back in the 90s. I remember 98. I had another project that was called Park Deluxe. And 98, we were really deep into the 90s, and that was another project. I tried to make some kind of techno music, you know. And I knew I am way too musical educated that this will ever come out as techno, because it has to be a little simple, you know. So I was convinced I need some people who break me a little, you know, you hold me back a little, that I'm not going too far. Well, if you listen yesterday to the episodes, I mean, you have to agree, it's really spreading and it's complicated stuff, you know. And I wanted to make something different, more simple, you know, make the people dance. And then I just gathered with two friends of mine, Alexander Sewald and Peter Pokreseva, and we landed all the equipment we could and put it all in my little tiny flat in Worms. And I gave the guys the key and said, when I'm not around, when I'm working, you can go in whenever you want. And so we were working actually 24/7, you know, whether together or alone, you know. And this later turned out to be Park Deluxe, Breit Gefächert. We never released it, but maybe I will do in the future. That there's some unreleased tracks, and I guess you never heard of them. We also made Mike Oldfield from Platinum Charleston, and we made it a techno, a house version. Yeah, fun like this, we make really funny stuff. And by talking about radio, in Frankfurt there was a guy, I forgot his name now, but there was a radio station called Evosonic Radio, and that was a pirate radio station, so you never knew what frequency you have to search for. We sent them the demo tape and they played it. That was 1998, and that was the first time we heard our stuff on the radio. I heard my stuff on the radio. Yeah, I guess every musician out there knows how cool it feels when you hear your song the first time on the radio, especially when it's a pirate radio and completely illegal. They're not around anymore, but yeah, that was the crazy 90s. You know.
So Guido, you're producing music equally as compatible to most record labels. So why did you not reach out to a record label and show them your talents?
Well, the first and the last time I ever sent demo tapes to a record labels, that were in 1987, 88. You know, when I made my these crappy demo tapes, which we talked in the beginning. And yeah, I was just almost like a teenager, like a kid, you know, and of course they were so crappy that even these underground record companies I've sent them in, like Plain, Erdenklang, they all rejected with good reason, you know. I would have done the same, you know. And then later on in 1994, when I made episodes 1 and 2, I knew already what kind of sharks the record companies are, you know, that they want to have your rights, they want to keep the rights of the musician, and I'm always that guy. I didn't want to share that with them, you know, and I didn't want to belong to a record company, and also, to be honest, I didn't have too much interest to publish this music at all, because the episodes in the beginning, what you have to know, I recorded in 1994 and released them 2004, so there's a gap of 10 years in between, you know, because this music was actually only done for myself, you know. It was really my private music, and I actually didn't want to share it with anybody. I just want to keep it for myself. Even if friends ask me, can you make me copies? I said, no, never, you know, you cannot have it. And it took me 10 years to convince myself to release it. Yeah.
You always manufacture a studio in your apartment, so you've never given up on going through time producing records.
No, why should I? Because I do music because of the passion to the music, or like I always used to say, some people make a living out of music, and I make a living for the music, you know, because actually to do what I do, it only costs money. I cannot remember that I ever earned a lot with my music, you know. It mostly costs me much money, but it's like I told you, the music, you can consider the music as my first best friend, you know, and you don't sell friends.
So these particular days when you're producing a particular type of music that you find very personal and that you kept buried.
Episodes.
Yeah, the episodes you kept buried for 10 years. So now you're going to remaster them and send them back out?
Actually, it's already done. We're now, what day is it today? 28 November.
Yeah.
23. I already have it. It's already done. What you heard yesterday, these episodes I showed you, that was the remasters. And I guess they sound gorgeous.
And do you have
They will. I mean, I remastered it because it was 1994, 2004, the first release, and now next year we have 2024, so it will be the 30th anniversary, and that's why I made the remaster. And believe me, if you like the episodes the way they are now, you will love the new version, you know, with the remastered sound.
So your music now is going around the world virally. So is there any particular country that stands out that likes your music more so than any other?
Well, England was always good to me. I have to tell it. The most, I had radio stations asking me for interviews, even not a lot, but particular from Wales and from Scotland also. And you can find it on my homepage, of course, like everything. Yeah, the British always liked my music, and I also see that in the numbers, you know, today you can check everything on your cell phone, you see the countries. But sometimes it makes me really laugh when I see that I have countries there like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, unbelievable, maybe for that song Gaza Strip, must be possible, or in Nigeria, in Russia, actually everywhere in the world. Well.
And so, you just mentioned episodes is being remastered. Is that your project you're working on right now?
Yeah, for 2024 now there will be only remasters. There's also the Towards the Blue Horizon, that was done 2004. That was actually the first recording I did here in Switzerland when I came here, 2003, when I had actually absolutely no intention to make any music. And it's 20 years old now too, and that this will, I guess I'm gonna release it in summer, somewhere around it, summer 24, and then in the end there comes episodes 2 for the winter time. That is the plan, you know. And until now I only remastered the episodes 1 and 2.
Guido, you're full-time employed and you're making a living from your employment, but you're also playing live and you're equally pulling in the same money. Why did you give up playing live?
Back in the days, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, today I really play rarely live. That's really rarely, because it's not so easy to bring my music on stage. But back in the days, 92 till 94, which were the 2 years when I played with Manu, with the Forgotten Live, that I can tell you that it's really a hard job. If people think to be a musician is easy, believe me, it's not. Yeah, when you're the Rolling Stones or Eric Clapton, of course, you just stumble on the stage and you play your set. And you're good, but not as the average small underpaid musician, and that's what we were. I remember like 3 or 4 gigs, and I can tell you the stories. For example, there was one we played in our local town. We had to rent a PA system because the club didn't have their own one, and so we rented the stuff. You had to build it up, and the point was, that day we were super sick. We both had a cold, Manu, and we had like 40 degrees fever. And yeah, and you know, you cannot cancel the gig as long as you have a replacement band, and we couldn't find it in that short amount of time we had. We couldn't find another band to replace us, so we had to play the gig, you know, and not even bring the PA system there in the noon. Then you have to set it up, you have to make the sound check, and then you have to play 90 minutes with encores, and we could only survive because Manu was, every time we stopped the song, he was over the microphone to the waitress, please bring a tea, you know. Really needed a tea. And yeah, but we made it, and then you have to unensemble everything, bring back the PA, and then it will be 3 o'clock in the morning till you make it to your bed. Another bad example is we played a gig, and I was convinced the organizer, he was completely on cocaine and he was nervous all the time. And what happened? See, you know, as a musician, you need the monitor speakers right in front of you. Otherwise, you, as a musician on stage, you will not hear yourself. And what happened? Because that was so typical for Manu and me, for our luck, the bad luck actually what we had. I'm a little sarcastic here, just by the way. And no, what was the point? Suddenly the monitor speakers gave up, you know, so we couldn't hear ourselves. It was impossible. And we tried to explain to the organizer, listen, we cannot play anymore because we don't hear us anymore. But he had no technical understanding at all, and he just forced us to continue, you know. Otherwise, yeah, he was not violent, but super crazy, this guy. And then Manu and me, we said, what can we do? So we stepped as far to the edge of the stage as we could, so we nearly bent over. If we bent over a little, we just would fall down. And then we took the PA system, which is left and right of you, the speakers, and just turned them a little, the angle, so if we lean forward, we could hear ourselves. See, sometimes really disaster. We finished the gig. Actually, the people liked it because we were so close in front of them, and they were really wild, you know. But circumstances sometimes make you really crazy. Another gig which shows how lucky we really were on stage was we played in front of 1,000 people for a charity festival for free, you know. But I mean, there was 1,500 people there, and I was so proud I could play Joe Satriani's Surfing with the Alien, which is a kind of a technical music piece, you know, for an electric guitar. And you start with the rhythm, and then there comes the solo. When I play the solo, I have to stomp one of these boosters, you know, the distortion. And what happened? The moment the solo comes in and I stomp the booster, one of the connector cables just failed. And there was no sound of the guitar at all. And I was still playing the solo completely out of my head, because I thought, okay, maybe this is just, again, the monitors or something, and the audience will hear it. And Manu on the other side, he would try to look at me and give me signs with the head that something's wrong, nobody's hearing you. But I was so concentrated on my fretboard and kept on playing, you know. And then the solo was over. I stumped the box again, and the sound was there for the last part of the rhythm, you know, and the people. Crazy. I mean, we had also nice gigs. I remember that open air in, I guess it was in Alzey, when the sun came down, and we just played the right time, and there were thousands of people there, and we played also Oldfield covers, North Star, and that was one of the brilliant moments. But mostly, I have bad memories of playing live back in the days, and that is why in '94 we gave up on it. You know, Manu went to Munich, and I started my development as a nurse in Mannheim. You know, because I didn't have a proper job development until then. You know.
Okay, Guido. So it's the 90s have established themselves, and so you've packed your bags. And you've gone down to the train station, and you've ended up in Switzerland 10 years later.
But yeah, in 2003 I made a decision to leave my hometown. I mean, I could for working as a nurse, you know, because that day I remember 2003, around that I was skateboarding a lot. I did a lot of different things. I was really into my job, nursing actually, and music, like it always was in my career, you know. It's like it comes and goes, but I never can get rid of it. It's just like it follows me, and one day it says, here I am, Guido, and it knocks at the door, and now it's time to compose again, you know, and there's nothing I can do against it, like a disease. And in 2003, when I came to Switzerland, I had absolutely no interest actually, or was not thinking about making music actually. I could have ended up in Australia or in Dubai, because I had work permissions for these countries too, and I was also considering going to England or Ireland, because back in the days it was known that you get paid very good in Ireland, not England, Ireland. You know, they pay you very good then. But I didn't. So it turned out to be Bern, Switzerland, and yeah, I never saw a reason actually to leave here. You know.
So Guido, we're in Switzerland, and we are working as a nurse, and you're paying rent. Everything's fine. So, is that what made you decide to go back into the music, or did you want to just finish nursing and just be full-time musician?
No, it happened a little different. I worked as a nurse here in Bern, and one of my colleagues, Ruth Brunner, she heard some of the episodes. Just coincidentally, we meet and we find out we had kind of same music. We like the same kind of music, what we like to listen to. And then I just showed her the piece, and she was really amazed. She said, "Oh, that is amazing! You should publish that." So she was actually the one who. I said, "Really? You think people should hear this?" And she said, "Yeah." And by the way, I just told her, "Yeah." During the years, because now we actually have this gap from '94 till 2004, and I was not lazy. I did a lot of stuff. I had already ideas for Light Years, which came out in 2006. I had ideas for Towards the Blue Horizon, which I made that in 2004. And yeah, I don't want to say too much, but Ruth is kind of a rich woman, you know, and she said, what I told her of my financial problems, that I could do music if I just had the ability to record it. And now we're in 2004, and I was not so much fan of computers by that time. So in my mind, I had like a hard disk recorder, and I still have it over there. It's a 16-channel hard disk recorder, and I just mentioned to her, I need a hard disk recorder. And next day she knocked the door, and here it was for free. She gave it for me.
So this was the birth of you owning your own studios in your apartment. So you're now building a studio in 2004.
Yes, I did. Ruth bought me the recorder. Luckily, thank you very much, Ruth. I never had to pay back the money. That's really cool. And yeah, I had all my effects, compressors and stuff, and the rack there. And like always, I set up my studio flat, you know, because like I told you, I always need my studio around me, because when I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, I cannot go like distance of 10 kilometers to the studio, set up everything, and I need it right where I'm living, you know.
You just showed me a photograph there, Guido, of you in 2006 in Switzerland signing an autograph.
No, that was not in Switzerland. That was in at the Q Records Open Air in Germany, close to the Nürburgring. That is where it is.
And were you playing there or just signing?
No, not playing.
Okay.
I was invited by Jörg Strave. I like his music very much. He is also a synthesizer player, and to me, he's kind of like a famous guy. And he always sent me emails, Guido, come on, play live here. And I said, no, I cannot come play live because it's boring for the people. It's just me standing there with the guitar, and then there's the hard disk recorder in the background for the backing tracks. And I said, I would not like to watch this. And he didn't stop sending emails over again. Come on, play. There was another guy, I don't want to mention his name now. There was another guy 1 year ago on our open air, and he just did the same thing with the hard disk recorder, and then said, okay, if this guy did it, then I can do it too. And so I did it, and Ruud and me, we took the drive I was already living in Bern, that's true, and we took the long drive to Germany just to play there. But look, in my opinion, today there is really no reason to sign up with a record company. They only rip you, you know. It's not the 80s and the 90s anymore where you have physical stuff like CDs, tapes or records. Even if I have CDs, but nobody's buying them, everybody's streaming. They do not even download anymore today. People just stream, and so you have to be on Spotify, Tidal, Amazon or YouTube, wherever. That is how people consuming today. And so that it never made actually sense signing up a record company. And today it makes absolutely even less sense because everybody can publish. You just can upload on Spotify. You could do it actually, you know.
Well, tonight in Zurich, Björk is playing. There's a blast from the past, and her tickets are 150. So I think that the main objective for a musician today is play live.
Playing live, if you want to make a living of that, yeah. See, that is why for myself, I guess it was back in. When I started nursing, actually, the first idea was learn the job and then go back, make music again. But during the process of becoming a nurse, I noticed actually the job is not so bad, and I am actually not a real live musician. The stuff I do takes a long time, you know. Albums like Towards the Blue Horizon or Light Years, to compose it took almost years, and to record it and produce it, that takes really months, you know. So that is the way this music is done, and I consider myself actually more like that kind of studio nerd, you know. My music happens in the studio. That is where I can set my mind free, and now and then to play live is always fun, but it costs a lot of money. First you need musicians who want to play your music, you know, or otherwise you have to pay them. It's not so easy to bring the stuff live, and especially my music, what you heard yesterday, it's so complex. Like you need like 12 musicians to bring it live, you know. I just cannot afford it, you know. I just don't have the money. So back in the days I made a decision that I said, actually this nursing just stuff is not so bad, because I can start and stop whenever I like to. Nursing is a job is always searched, very, you know. The hospital is always longing for nurses all into the world, and it gives me the freedom to earn my money. I know I have a stable income every month, because, like I told you, to make music the way I do costs a lot of music, and with the free time I have, and that is actually all of the time what is left over, I invest this time in making music. That is actually how I am working, you know. Now you got it. All right. More of the studio nerd. Actually, that is actually more what I am. You know? See, another thing I have to explain is actually that what makes me make music is really the passion for the music. I was never thinking of money. Of course, I had not a problem. If I could make a living from my music, that would be wonderful, you know. But then I had to do much more commercial music, what I don't want to do. It makes no sense to me to create music that you don't like. And I know there's surely many people out there who do hits just for the money, you know, and that was never my intention, you know. I always make music from the heart. If other people likes it, it's good. If they don't, so just give a damn, you know. But I never saw a reason to sell myself or to twist and turn myself into something what I not am. But when you hear my music, that is really what comes from my heart, deep inside me. You know, that is what I want to share with the people. You know,
Do you think
that is actually all I can do.
do you think there will be a time where you will never nurse and just rely on entertaining people?
That is not in my hands, Gray. See, that is up to the listeners. Like I told you, if there's suddenly a couple of 100,000 who will listen to my music, that would be great. So I could stay home. I didn't even. You don't have to get rich. You know, it was also never my idea to get rich from the music. But if I had like a little income every month, surely that would be great. So because then you can spend all your time on doing music, you know, and it would be the outcome. I think would be even better than what I already produced, of course, you know.
So there is a chance that you'll never nurse.
I don't know. It's up to these people there.
So Guido, how many different styles and types of music would you describe you?
Genres, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I never actually thought in genres. My background surely is electronica music, like Tangerine Dream, Irish folk a lot, medieval music, classical music, of course, a lot, and actually everything I could have a listen. All strange music was always interesting for me. Was it Turkish or Arabian stuff or Chinese or Japanese tunes? You know, all these influences came into my music, and I would say it's completely without any boundaries, you know. Because just for example, let's go quickly through Fairy Tale, the album. It starts with what is kind of like a synthesizer layer, you know, almost cinematic music. And then we have this Fiesta Fatal, which is more like flamenco and Spanish. We have the gap dancer that has a lot of Irish styles in. We have rock there. We have new age. So I just go from one to another, whatever fits.
Yeah,
you know.
it's pending on the mood. Yeah.
It depends on when you start composing, and suddenly the music gets a certain direction, and then I notice, for example, this would better work with a rumba beat or Latino stuff, or this is probably better kind of a rock or metal thing, you know. And so is the sounds, and sometimes I decided it's better to use the guitar or not, and sometimes it's just better make it with the synthesizers. It depends on, yeah. It's always different.
So Guido, on a personal level, you're probably one of the best guitarists I ever had the privilege to meet in my life, and
Says he.
You could almost play a guitar without any frets. Have you actually ever saw a guitar without frets?
Fretless guitars were around in the 80s and so, but they never established, you know. It's more like a experimental thing, as far as I know.
And on the guitar level, who's your mentor there?
Yeah, there were many mentors. I never had a mentor, you know, because actually I never went to a real guitar school, with one exception. In the 90s. I always had to take the train to Offenbach, and that is close to Frankfurt, and there was a like a little guitar institute. It's called SRG, what means School for Rock Guitar. And see, because after all these years, when you autodidact, you teach yourself, you know. There is stuff you know, and then there's a gap, and there's stuff you know, then there's another gap, and you need somebody after a while who fills all these gaps, you know. And so I decided it's a good thing now to go to a institute, to a school, you know, and they teach you like arpeggios and scales and how to put it all together, make it work, you know.
How many guitars do you own?
Now I have like 7 or 8, but they come and go, you know.
What type of guitar is your favorite?
My favorite guitar is the Ibanez RG 550, and that is actually a guitar costs about $1,000 plus or minus, and then I take out the entire electronic and change that the way I need it. Not only the pickups, but every single wire has to go on, and also the resistors, what is in between. I have special ideas what that has to be, and yeah, and then I set it up the way I want with DiMarzio pickups, and you're good to go, and that's my sound.
How many guitars would you bring to your desert island?
As many as possible.
250.
We have a nice shop there. I know it's hidden in Bern. It's a little secret, but I was in there once, and they have unbelievable collection of old Gibsons. And the oldest guitar he let me put my hands on was a 1930 Dobra, that made of aluminium, made of metal. You know, this metal guitar, Dobro. What Mark Knopfler owns, one of the originals.
Right, okay. Very tinny sound, yeah. Like bluesgrass. Yeah, right.
That was really cool. Yeah.
Hey, if you were to explain how you perform your own technique, which is kind of when you do that lead and you do that slide.
I do not much of sliding. Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about my technique, actually I use just my fingers, you know, sometimes, and it will sound like this, you know. I'm just picking. Because if you just use your fingers, you have a really direct connection to the strings and to the guitar, you know. You can not get any closer. I'm not playing with the nails, but with the skin, you know. And of course for chords also. But then I use two different picks. I cannot reduce it to one. I will explain you. This is a Dunlop 3mm. It's super stiff. You know, you cannot bend it. And that is mostly what I use for solo playing. Because the cool thing is whenever I hit the string with these, there is absolutely
no flex.
No flex. Full resistance, you know, and that is what makes you able to hit the note in a very direct way. And this one is very flexy, as you can see, and it has this
ridge.
Yes, these waves there, and so you look if
teeth.
Teeth. Like if you play stuff like sounds that way, but with the you have that extra
more of a grip.
crunchy, yeah. And there's a lot of other stuff you can do with that, but I don't want to get too deep here. And I'm always changing between D3. That is also when I play live, I always have to look where's my picks are actually at, you know. This one. No, not warmed up.
So Guido, it's been a real good privilege to have the opportunity to interview you today on your history and also the previous nights. And I just want to say that you are one of the most talented, gifted musicians that I ever did meet. And I could honestly say that one of the best guitarists.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to say that I, Greg Cotrulia, am very, very honoured to have met as a friend, as a colleague, as a good friend, the privilege to have this interview take place.
Thank you, Graham, for having me. Bye bye.
Where's my fiber?
Well, so that's the end now. Goodbye, people.